Hello everyone, CSWort here, and in front of me is the project I've been working on for the past several months. It is a one-to-one recreation of Kamurocho from Yakuza 0. This is all built in survival Minecraft on the DugDug SMP server. Shout out to them. And yeah, this was a project that I took on all on my own. People did offer to help and to collect resources, but I declined because I'm an idiot. And I could have definitely used the help, but here it is. I did the entire thing on my own and I'm glad that I did it. So I'll slowly just walk through here all of the areas and so you can get a feel for it, and I'll slowly explain a few of the things. So starting with the setup is I actually built this on a mountain, as we'll see as we start slowly going up here. It actually provides a bit of a better view in my opinion, that it's gives you more of an eyesight and you have to look upwards as you're moving up the city to the north, and as you're moving down you can like see more of the city. But the roads, I started off with these smooth stone bricks, and I opened up a screenshot on MS Paint, and I was translating them one-on-one to an Excel sheet before eventually just resizing the image to be a one to actually match the pixel block of the for each of the pixels to match the block coordinates in game. And yeah, that took quite a while to do, to flatten all to mostly flatten out the land and to get it to that point. Was done in about early September. The road network was at least laid out, and I'd filled in, I think, most of the gravel or most of the black concrete at that point. But there were definitely some spots where I just quit and didn't keep going, like along the outside edge of the city. That also kind of doesn't exist for the most part in the game, as you'll see here in FreeCam. It really should have probably been extended at least in a few areas where it looks bad, like right here, but I'm done with the project, so if you want to fix it you can, because I will be providing a download link in the description. But yeah, there were just several areas where I could have AFK'd more, like here at Mockbull. All of this should be fully oxidized copper, but I didn't feel like wasting several hours to just sit here and let that turn green. I tried for like one or two, but after this area turned from the first stage to the second stage, I was like, you know what, I'm done. And yeah, it doesn't help how the server kicks you off after 5 minutes of being AFK, so that was all the more reason to just quit. However, for the most part, although the buildings are fully intact, the main structures are there. I didn't bother adding in any of the finer details. Like here is the only area where I actually added like the duct on the outside of the building, and it kind of looked weird, so I left it here, but I didn't add it on any of the other buildings. I did try to do smaller details, like here. This is supposed to be a green like chicken wire fence, but obviously that doesn't exist, so I kind of alternated using like glass panes and iron so many iron fence gates. Uh, if you'll notice, these are just everywhere in the city, and that it adds a lot of detail, but it's also used for like railing and for billboards and such. But here's probably the worst section of the whole build, and that is at the very top of the hill. This building is built on such a weird slant angle that it kind of just didn't really work out so well having the entrance here. So yeah, if you ignore this, then the rest of the build is actually pretty okay. There were several areas that also didn't exist in game, like this whole section back here is nothing. Once this building gets cut off, I think like 3 or 4 blocks after, all of this is void. And so I just improvised and said, yeah, I'm going to say that this is a parking lot. Why? Because you need somewhere to park your cars, right? And I needed a backdrop to all of the sections down here, and so that's what I did. This is just meant to be a, hey, there's something here, but in game you don't know what it is, and because there's nothing actually there in game, I just said, yeah, parking lot. Now I'm sure in the later games this might be something, but again, I'm trying to recreate the map from Yakuza 0, and if it doesn't exist there, then it doesn't exist at all. And over here at the Northern Hotel District is actually where I started the entire project. I was based at the top of the hill. I'd make my trips down here on a horse and would start building. These were the first 2 buildings I built in the brick here. I put a little bit more detail into them, but you can definitely tell that there's a bit of a styling difference when I started versus way over there on that end where I ended. I was using like quartz pillars for windows and had birch trap doors for windows, and eventually I slowly transitioned to using the glass panes because they're a lot cheaper than the regular glass, and it adds a little bit more depth than just having a flat texture. And so, yeah. On top of that, I also started texturing the road back here. I used the black concrete to begin with, and then I slowly added the gray wool to indicate like a worn out or uh, old asphalt feel. And then I have iron trap doors for manhole covers, and then a bunch of iron pressure plates for some random metal things on the ground. And here we can actually see is something that also doesn't exist in game is I kind of added like these back areas because yeah, they're buildings in game, but if you follow the networks, then they kind of don't go any, or the buildings kind of just like cut off, and so I had to like create these back alley areas, and I tried adding a bit of extra transport for like if you want to turn this into a PvP map, and like for example, this here will take you to the roof of this area. As soon as I get up here, and like it just gives you a bit of an vantage point. And here we can actually see is the park. The park is one of those weird things that I couldn't really do much to. Let me fly over here. Because in game the park is like not actually to scale with the map, as I'll show here in FreeCam. If I zoom out, the park is like only 1/3 of the actual size of the area that it's supposed to take up. And so I would end up having to stretch out like the fountain and all the tents and the trees, or I could just like try and keep it reasonably sized and say that yeah, it's just a park for walking around in. And I was gonna like bone meal sapling trees, but that didn't feel as authentic as the rest of it, so I just kind of left the park alone. Even this building here, on the inside of the park, there's no wall here. On the outside of the park, the wall extends all the way around, so I wasn't sure what to do about that, so I just left it open just as a way to quickly get in and out of the park, because the only other way is to leave like scaffolding for the player to climb out of. And yeah, the park is probably a big mess, but I'm still happy with how most of this turned out. And as we move along here, we'll just be walking by a few of the buildings, and I can point out a few things, like calcite is actually supposed to be a white tile instead of like marbly, if you could imagine that being a square texture instead. And then also like warped planks here are supposed to be a blue brick. Now we only have a red brick in game, so my next best option was to use something that looked like a brick, and this kind of fit the bill as best it could, and I kept that theme consistent across the whole map. Here is the parking lot. I tried adding a little bit of detail with like the carpet on top of signs to get the parking lines. I know this like wall is supposed to be up higher and have a bunch of billboards on it, but I think it kind of would look bad if I just had so much more spam of the iron fence gate stuff that I just left it open concept, and it looks better in my opinion like this. But here we are at the Little Asia area now, and I can actually sneak into this area because it is fully done, and you can even come in through any of the sides that you wouldn't normally be able to in-game. So these are fully traversable again. And normally in-game you would have to take this random side wandering path to get to the rest of the area, but I decided to just make this a 2 block wide path, and you can either go straight through or take the stairs up to the top and follow this path. And here's one of the only non-conventional methods to get up. Is this is probably supposed to be 2 blocks wide, but in game it's only about 1 block wide, and so I added trapdoors as a way to get up. And so yeah, one way is trapdoors to get up, the other is to just walk straight through. That's the only weird thing that is like Minecrafty to fix a problem in the game. Other than that, the rest of this is like this whole area gets cut off and doesn't exist in game, so I kind of just like extended the buildings and like squared it off, try and make it look better. And even moving through here, I again added some more areas where you can just like take shortcuts to other parts of the map, and see like these 2 buildings are, or these 3 buildings are some of the only ones that are copied in the entire game. And that's actually ironically at the very end of the Little Asia district here. So let me just finish walking through here, because I did model the entire inside area here, including the random walkway path that you have to take to get there. And yeah, over here is those same 3 buildings, one of the only ones that are copy pasted in the entire game. within the area the player can see. So yeah, and this takes us to the Champion District. And here in the Champion District, aside from having this weird plaza or empty lot area, we have these buildings which were the absolute pain of my existence to build. When you need something that has a lot of fine detail and in such a small space, but you only have like 3 blocks to work with, 4 or 5 going across here, it just didn't really work out so well. And again, these are all supposed to be oxidized to the first state, but again, I just didn't want to wait and sit here for hours on end for what is essentially nothing. So again, this is another area that could be a little bit better, but I'm not going to bother. If we fly out of here though, you will see that this area is, that this area kind of looks like a prison with all of the gray wall textures, and so trying to keep with that theme on the outside edge here, I improvised and said, all right, we'll make this a prison front, because that's kind of what it looks like. And so, yeah, this doesn't exist in game, or this entire long stretch of this building, none of this exists. So to try and at least make it feel complete for the main city area here, not the external area, I've just had to improvise and come up with a lot of stuff like that. So yeah, even like this building here, it should be 2 blocks over, but once I built it and the building next to it and like the entire rest of the block is when I realized the mistake. I'm like, I'm not going to fix that. So yeah, several things are slightly inaccurate, like 1 or 2 blocks off, but for the most part, the entire city is correct. And actually, these 3 buildings, if you wanted to finish building the rest of this, like these 3 buildings here are copy pasted like 6 times along this main road here. Yeah, so just moving along here, getting another quick view of some more of the city. There were a few things. Oh, I probably shouldn't point this out, but this these poor castles, the 2 castles, because there's one here and one over by the park that I had to build. They're something, all right. I mean, they're nothing compared to the amazing shrine that I built over here. Like, piece de resistance. Anyway, and here's that same building mentioned before, but copied a 3rd time, but only this one. So yeah, that's the only ones that I actually saw copied in the whole game, which is kind of refreshing, but also probably would have made my life a lot easier if I could just copy paste a few of the buildings. And yeah, just views like this where you can see like the city and it's just there. You don't see the outside Minecraft world. It's just something. And I remember the first time that I completely finished a street and the building in front of it, and I didn't see the outside Minecraft world. I'm like, wow, this project is worth finishing. And I'm glad that I saw it through. All the way through to, this is the last area that I had worked on. It is the small area that gets replaced in the later games by the big tower. And here we have more copper that should have been oxidized. All of the the slabs and the stairs should be oxidized to the first state, and the trapdoors should be oxidized to the last state. But yeah, if we get a bit of a zoom out here, I'm going to use free cam to cheat a little bit. Copying this structure with a non-even 1x1 diagonals here was really hard, because the game does not really follow normal rules, because it has stuff like sitting on slanted angles and all sorts of stuff. So this was really difficult to build, but I think it gets the point across. You have a wireframe and like what's supposed to be sheet metal sitting on there to protect from the sun and all that. It gets the job done. And here is the so important empty lot that everyone cares so much about. Oh wait, no, it's just a plain empty plot of land. And here inside of the main building is where I placed my headquarters, where my iron farm is, and I had stone to trade with mason villagers to reset their trades, and all my shulker box mess. So yeah. And as we dawn onto the new day, we can step out here into Theater Square Plaza and just see the bigger buildings, really taking it in, and I'm just happy to be done with the project. If you want to finish this, feel free to do so, because again, I will be providing a link in the description, but as I fly over and view my work, I'm ready to say that I'm done with this myself. And that's all I got for today. Goodbye.